Alright guys, Oryx is launching tomorrow and I know a lot of you are looking for a day one raid build. I really hope this can help you out, and if you're watching this in the future and you still want to get your first clear, this build will help you out as well. But just jumping right into it, I want to go on and tell you guys, right now in the game, Arc is currently bugged on the Titan and Warlock. I would not recommend taking Arc 3.0 into the raid because you essentially get zero resilience, and resilience is obviously very strong in a day one raid scenario, so do not run Arc because you will die a lot. Now I'm going to be running Solar with Well of Radiance. Well of Radiance is a very good super. It is really good for survivability. It's really good for boss damage. There's a lot of standing in one place in King's Fall, so having a Well of Radiance just to protect everybody and do a lot of damage to bosses is going to be very, very good. Now, the exotic I'm going to run is Starfire Protocol. So this is going to make my fusion grenades have an additional charge and recharge from empowered weapon damage. Fusion grenades kills will also grant Rift energy. This is going to be a very staple part of the build, which is why I wanted to go on and talk about it, because we're going to play heavily into our grenades. A great thing to pair with Starfire Protocol is Wither Horde, because you can shoot the Wither Horde, then all the tick damage from Wither Horde will actually keep refilling Starfire Protocol, and you can throw grenades everywhere, which is really good for boss damage and also just clearing out entire rooms of ads. Now for Solar, I obviously am going to be running Empowering Rift and Fusion Grenades, because that's kind of what plays into our exotic. We throw grenades, we get kills, we get rifts back, we put our rifts down, we get more grenades back, yada yada. You can keep going back and forth. I do like running Incinerator Snap because it does actually apply Scorch to enemies in a big radius, which is going to be really good. Scorch plays a huge part in this build. But for my aspects, I'm going to be running Icarus Dash. The reason I'm running Icarus Dash over something like Heat Rises is, one, because I already have 100 strength. I don't really need Heat Rises as much, and the benefits Icarus Dash provides is very, very strong. Being able to just dodge around a corner to get into protection for survivability is very, very good. Obviously, there are a lot of jumping type things in King's Fall, or even things like the totem. So in the totem's room, you can just Icarus Dash back and forth, which is going to be really strong, make it very, very fast. Then for the jumping parts I mentioned before, obviously closer to Oryx, you can jump around to grab, the little buff. This is going to be really good for that too. If you screw up, you can just kind of get back. It's just a really good movement tool, and I think it will be good for getting around King's Fall. Now, I'm running Touch of Flame because obviously I'm running Fusion Grenades. This will make my Fusion Grenades explode twice. Now, getting into fragments, Ember of Char. Your solar ignition spreads Scorch to affected targets. So whenever I ignite people, which will be a lot, I will spread Scorch to them. Ember of Blistering. Defeating targets with solar ignitions grants grenade energy. So now my ignitions will spread Scorch and give me grenade energy back, which is really good because you want to spam grenades as much as possible. Then I'm going to be running Ember of Eruption. Your solar ignitions have increased area of effect. So now everything the ignitions are already doing, that will be even bigger to make it even easier. Then finally, Ember of Ashes. So you apply more Scorch stacks to targets. So it makes it even easier to ignite enemies. They have a big explosion and you get grenade and you apply more Scorch, which will then chain more explosions. Now you might be asking yourself, well, Rest, why are you not running Radiant? And that's because I'm going to have empowering rifts everywhere. Hopefully, I'm just going to throw grenades everywhere. I'm going to have these things placed everywhere. You don't really need to run Radiant as much. And then you might be asking yourself again, why are you not running Restoration? Where is your survivability with this build? Well, we've already went over, obviously having 100 resilience is very good. You get 40% damage reduction. This is essentially just Protective Light at all times. Protective Light used to be 50%. This is just 40% 24/7. But I'm also going to be running things like Well of Life. So picking up a solar elemental well grants increased regeneration for a short period of time, and recuperation, so replenishes health each time you pick up an orb of power. So every time you pick up a solar well and a orb of power, you will also be getting healed with the damage reduction. And I am also going to be running Unrelenting on my Callous Mini tool, which when you get multiple kills with it, you also regenerate health. So with all four of those things, the survivability of this build is already very, very good. You don't really have to run Restoration, and then you can play into your Fusion Grenades, which are going to be very good again for just filling entire rooms of ads, and just very, very good for single target damage and boss damage. And I'm also going to be running 100 Discipline, just obviously to get my grenades back as much as possible. Then we've already went over 100 resilience and 100 strength. So getting into weapons, because the weapons do play a huge part. We've already went over Wither Horde, but I'm going to be running Succession in my first slot, just because there are a lot of like longer range enemies that I think Succession would, you can just swap to it, take them out, be very, very good. Riptide, if I need to just kill an enemy up close, this has auto loading vorpal, is very, very strong. Is essentially just kind of like my little shotgun if I need to just kill an enemy close. I have Partner Dust for blinding grenades. As always, blinding grenades are just insanely broken. You kind of just blonde everything, nothing can shoot you. I do have Outbreak for DPS scenarios. If everybody runs out of ammo, we can all just swap to Outbreak and just shoot out a boss with this. Izanaki's Burden, which is very good for DPS, or if there's just a really tanky target that needs to die somewhere, this is going to be very good for that as well. Callous Mini tool, we're going to have a trend here, but Incandescent. I have Incandescent on all my weapons. is really good. You can just apply Scorch to everything. Scorch is really good for this, so you can ignite people with your melee, everything like that. Very strong. As I've said already, there are longer range encounters, so I do have a pulse, bow, and auto with all incandescent. The reason I am running these three specifically is because our artifact mods have overload bow, unstoppable pulse, and anti-barrier auto rifle. We don't know if they're champions in the raid yet. I would imagine there probably will be. So with each of these, I do have an ability to take them down, which is very good. But if there aren't any and they're not that impressive, I will just keep the Callus mini tool on probably for the majority of the raid. Now, for heavy weapons, I am running the Cataclysmic. This is just one of the best DPS options in the game. If you don't have the Cataclysmic, be sure to go craft the linear fusion that you can get from this season. It's very strong. Triple tap firing line. It's going to be one of your best options. I do have a Heathen's Vengeance just in case somebody's running Yellowhorn or you're doing a rocket strategy. Very good for that. Fixed odds, because there are some scenarios where I think just at clear machine guns is going to be very good. Again, incandescent, following the trend with these perks, you can kill everything. The other half, just so I can have Eager Sword to get through jumping puzzles. That's pretty much it. Legend of Acreus, because it is very good in the game now. Maybe with something like Golgoroth, we use a Legend of Acreus strategy. Then Yellowhorn, if I'm going to be the Yellowhorn person and everybody else runs other rockets. Now, I'm not taking Divinity because we already have a designated Divinity person, but if I do ever need to end up running, I can obviously put that on here. Now for the mods, let's start actually talking about how we're going to get things like Well Left to proc, because I'm going to be taking Elemental Ordnance. So whenever I get a grenade kill, which will be all the time, I will spawn an Elemental Well. Now, I'm also going to be running Explosive Well Maker. So whenever I'm rapidly defeating combatants with explosive damage, this will spawn a Solar Elemental Well. This is actually a very good mod for this build because your fusion grenades can blow up twice, which will proc Explosive Well Maker, which can spawn additional wells. But what's really good is the fact that Scorch and Ignitions can proc that, but Wither Horde can also proc it. So if you shoot a Wither Horde at a door and enemy is just coming out dying to Wither Horde, you will be making Solar Elemental Wells, which is very good. You get energy back. Again, you proc your Well of Life. Very strong. Explosive Well Maker is a must-have. It's kind of like Bountiful Wells in a way with your grenade, because you will spawn 2 wells, pretty much every other grenade. Now, I'm also going to be running Seeking Wells. This is going to be really good because all the wells you're making, they're going to track to you, which means you can have pretty much 100% uptime of well life for your survivability. Then finally, I'm going to be running Fontamite. So whenever I pick up the Solar Elemental Wells, all my solar weapons will be doing more damage. Fontamite will stack with things like Empowering Rift and Well of Radiance, so be sure to grab a well before you go into a boss phase. And now your Cataclysmic or Heathen's Vigilance is just doing a lot more damage. And even if you aren't a boss fight, Callus Mini Tool and all your other solo weapons will be doing a lot more damage as well. Now, I do have other mods I do want to go over really quick. Things like, Linear Fusion Ammo Finder, really good, so I can have as much ammo as possible for a DPS scenario if I do use a lot. Harmonic Siphon, so I can generate orbs with all my solar weapons since they will be matching my subclass type. Obviously, generating those orbs is going to be really good for recuperation, which we've already went over. Royal Life Recuperation, that's your survivability with 100 resilience. But I am also running Linear Fusion Scavengers, so I can pick up more Linear Fusion ammo just to have it more for boss damage or if I need to clear out tankier enemies. I'm also going to be running Thermoshock Plating, so I can get reduced solar damage and arc damage on top of Void Resistance, so I'm just resistance to all 3 elements, which is very good. There are a lot of enemies in King's Hall between Hive and Taken, so having all 3 elements is going to be strong for that. I will also be running a loader for my primary weapon, and I can change this out for whatever mod I want to. Right now, I do have Focusing Strike in just as a placeholder. It's not really doing much, but you can run Fastball if you want to. I just don't really like Fastball that much, honestly, but I know a lot of people live by it, but it kind of throws my game off because I'm just so used to not running it at this point. So I definitely don't want to throw my game off in a day 1 raid. Then finally, what's really cool with this is the fact that you also have Bomber. I'm running double Bomber on my class item, so this is going to reduce your grenade cooldown when using your class ability. Bomber plays so well with a Starfire Protocol build because whenever you place your Rift, you're getting grenade energy back from that mod, and then obviously shooting your weapon will also give you grenade energy. Then getting a grenade kill will give you that well back. It is just so synergistic. You can just go back and forth all the time. You have damage buffs, you have grenades killing everything, you have well spawning everywhere, you have a bunch of survivability with your perks, all your mods, everything like that. And also on top of all of that, just having the ability to Icarus Dash to get yourself into a better situation is also very strong. Then Well of Radiance with 100 resilience is even stronger than old Well of Radiance with the Overshield. So this just makes it very, very good. This is overall still one of the best builds in the game, even with Arc 3.0 being out. I don't think it's ever gonna not be one of the best builds in the game, honestly, just with how strong Weather Radiance is, unless they end up nerfing it. And that is the reason I'm taking this into the day one raid. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this and learned something from it. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comments below, and I will try to answer them as fast as possible. Also, be sure to comment what you're going to be running the day one raid. Who knows, you might help some other people out if you're playing a different class, or if you're just trying to do maybe a Stasis Warlock build, because that's also really, really good. But anyway, that's going to do all for me. If you guys did enjoy and would like to see more content just like this, consider subscribing, drop a like, and turn those notifications on. Also, if you'd like to join my Discord or follow me on any of my socials, all of that will be linked in the description. But just know watching the video is way more than enough. Every single bit of support from you all is truly appreciated. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a great day. Peace.